scared.
Just launched part 1 of Fight Night, which puts Crypt TV monsters up against humans in epic cage matches. Before part 2 drops this Friday, I thought we should take a look at some other epic fights in the world of horror. If we're talking about monster fights, we've got to start with King Kong versus the T-Rex. It's in RKO's King Kong. It was the first of its kind and made monster fans take notice. Crossover monster fights would start, like so much in horror, with Universal. Frankenstein meets the Wolfman opens up Universal's monster mashups and also opens with a grave robbing scene that is just everything right about this kind of movie. It's also arguably the earliest example of two idiots doing everything wrong and incurring a monster's wrath. These guys break into the Talbot family crypt to rob jewels that are supposedly buried with Larry. They remove the wolfsbane that's around his body, and oh, did I mention that they did all this on the night of the full moon? Dummies. Anyway, this brings Larry back to life as the Wolfman, and Maleva the Gypsy Woman tells him Dr. Frankenstein might be able to help him cure his curse. So Larry hits the road in search of the mad scientist. Now, this is much more of a Wolfman movie for most of the film. Larry Talbot only finds Frankenstein's monster at the very end, but they do manage to get in the first monster fight before it's over. They both get washed away when an explosion causes a flash flood, so we'll call this one a draw, but most fans at the time called the fight Too Little Too Late, and Universal decided to try again. They'd actually try a few more times. House of Frankenstein and House of Dracula followed, but it was actually Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein that proved to be the most satisfying of Universal's crossovers. But the first monster crossover would get some love from another iconic mashup, with part of the score from Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman being used during the climactic battle of King Kong versus Godzilla. Now, Godzilla would face off against a lot of monsters over the years, but this one would really set a precedent. In fact, we're even staring down a rematch with Godzilla vs. Kong coming from Legendary's Monsterverse next year. But as far as monster crossovers go, we got two of the biggest inside of a year of each other. Between August 15th, 2003 and August 13th, 2004, fans got two of the most hyped horror fights ever. First was Freddy vs. Jason. Fans had been begging for this one since the two slashers ruled the 80s, and the crossover was hinted at the end of Jason Goes to Hell. But it took what felt like forever to finally pit them against each other. This was a battle for the ages, and at the end, the who would win arguments would be replaced with the who won arguments, as the ambiguous ending left both camps claiming victory. Then Alien vs. Predator dropped a year later. This one was also hinted at more than a decade earlier when a xenomorph skull appeared in the trophy case on Predator's ship at the end of Predator 2. Fans latched onto the Easter egg, but spent years only getting comics and novels to quench their thirst for the face-off. Not only would they finally get the film in 2004, but also a sequel in 2007. There's also been some great indie monster fights since then. House of the Wolfman was an homage to the Universal mashups of the 1940s, and was intended to be a closeout of the House of trilogy. The climax is a decidedly more epic version of the Frankenstein vs. Wolfman battle that closes out the first of these crossovers. This one was even shot in black and white and used the old Academy aspect ratio, and is definitely worth the watch if you can find it. There was also Monster Brawl, 2011 Canadian feature starring Kids in the Hall alum Dave Foley as a play-by-play announcer. It featured a tournament bracket of monsters facing off and was all about the wrestling references, and even featured WWE personalities Kevin Nash, Robert Maillet, and Jimmy Hart among the cast. And that brings us back to Fight Night, Crypt TV's crossover that brings their monsters up against humans. The fights are arranged by the deranged Micah, who runs the show and dispatches a team to kidnap horrible people and throw them in the ring as fodder for the slaughter. Part 1 is available now, with Part 2 set to drop on Crypt TV's YouTube page this Friday, May 31st. So what's your favorite horror fight? Is there a matchup you're still waiting to see? Let us know in the comments, and remember, Fright Hype and Crypt TV are all over the internet. Until next time, keep the horror on the screen and off the streets. I'll see you then.
Watch new vids every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, only on Crypt TV.